Hi, if you are an introvert and you want to get over your public speaking fear, then you are in for a treat because I have here with me Chaz and Rahul, and we're all introverts. And guess what? We are public speaking trainers and we teach public speaking at a national stage. And we're going to share with you our journey and how we got over our public speaking fear.
So we were just talking about this last week, and one of the general themes that we realized is that all of us have systematically pushed our comfort zones further than we thought was possible. And we had to do that by starting with easy stuff, small things that were manageable, made us a little bit anxious, but that we didn't totally freak out, and then pushed it a little further to things that were kind of in the medium range until things that were totally crazy. And we'll get to that part in a second, but things that were really challenging and really pushed us to feel like we were going to be embarrassed or that we're going to make a total fool out of ourselves. So one of the first ones that came to mind thinking about pushing it at an easy level was at work. I would just start raising my hand in a meeting, or when our manager asked, okay, everyone's going to present on a project that you're working on, who wants to go first? And I had done a couple Toastmasters classes, so I was getting used to speaking a little bit more. And I just started, it felt like there's 100 pounds on my hand when I'd raise it at first. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to raise my hand first and make sure that I go. And every time I did, I felt so much better afterwards. And that was something that started getting me almost addicted. Maybe you guys can relate to this. I almost started feeling addicted to that feeling after. I'm like, oh, I feel so good. I'm already done. And now I can just pay attention to everyone else and not think about what I'm going to say for the whole presentation and not pay attention. So that was something that I started doing.
Awesome. As you guys might notice, what's hard for somebody might be easy for another person. So it depends on you. For me, the first thing I did to push my limits is join Toastmasters. And I thought it was going to be an easy thing. People looked nice. And I show up and I wanted to do my icebreaker. And I stand up with 3 written pages like these about myself. And I stand up and I started reading. And all that came out was like something like this. My name is Peter. I hate my job. Thank you. And I ran back to my seat out of 3 pages. Now, in hindsight, I think that was the biggest move I made to improve my confidence and public and comfort when it comes to public speaking, because it pushed the limit. And then every single time I spoke at Toastmasters after that, things got a little bit better. How about you, Chaz?
I love it. Yeah, I did Toastmasters as well, and I know a few of us did here. And it's really about pushing that, and then it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, right? You're going to push it, and then you have maybe a freak out moment. You're like, I don't ever want to do that again. And then you go and watch Netflix for 8 hours. I know I've been there. So it's just a little bit of pushing with, maybe a little bit of the recovery with it too. So I would say my easy way of improving was really through small talk, just everywhere, social situations, public situations, places that you wouldn't expect to necessarily start small talk. Like, for example, the Muni or BART, subways, in a shared Uber, or, even walking down the street or in a store, really every different opportunity, just finding something interesting and commenting on it, and then sharing why you think it's interesting. And for me, that was really mind-blowing because it broke that wall that I thought was there. I don't know, you guys might relate to it, but I thought there was just this social wall. You don't talk to people on the subway. It's just you keep to yourself, or, in a shared Uber, maybe you exchange some greetings here and there, and then you look at your phone. And, for so long, there was just this invisible wall that felt very real to me. So really, once I started poking at that wall, the wall is really not even there anymore. But I remember the very vivid feeling of that wall being up. So really just pushing it in little ways really helped me overcome.
That's awesome. For me, doing the social activities actually is a medium medium activity. It's not, to me, the entry level was Toastmasters. Medium level was doing social expansion as an introvert. And I remember I used to train myself like an athlete. So I would pick a Safeway at night, and I would go to that Safeway and I would stand in line and I would force myself to start a conversation with a person right behind me. And I remember the first week of doing this, I was the creepo in the store, because I'll be like standing there, I'll be looking at their stuff. One time this guy told me that I need to buy my own magazine because I was looking at his magazine. And I wasn't looking to read it. I was looking to think of ideas like, what can I comment about that magazine? And then, like you, Chaz, this started to remove the invisible walls. And as an introvert, I started to expand and started to have better time talking to people and conversating with strangers, which helped me reduce my public speaking anxiety.
I love that concept of the invisible wall. It's an unspoken, now that I'm thinking about it, it's an unspoken thing that we all agree to, that, oh, you know, you're not supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do that. But if you look at an extrovert, I look at some of my friends, and since we were one of my best friends, total extrovert, since we were 10 years old, and for him, these invisible walls never existed.
Mhm.
So he's going up to somebody and asking him something, and I'm looking at him. You know, I used to feel like embarrassed, or like, oh my God, like he can do that. But I also knew secretly that, okay, maybe I was a little bit embarrassed, but honestly, I was proud of him, and also two, I was impressed. I thought, oh wow, you can just go talk to somebody. And once I started breaking that wall, like a challenge that I did similar to you, Peter, maybe not as maybe easy, between easy and medium, was I would make sure every time I was at the grocery store and I was at the checkout line or with a barista or whoever in front of the cashier, I would try to make a conversation with them. Try my best. Sometimes, and honestly, sometimes it would fall flat. So that's something that for all of you listening, that sometimes it feels, it is awkward and you fall flat in that, but that is part of the comfort zone. And I think one of the most important things I realize is that no one dies from awkwardness. You will not die because something is awkward. Your body thinks that way. Your heartbeat is racing and you think, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. But we've all been embarrassed and we're all still here. Nothing bad has really happened in that sense. So sometimes it would fall flat, and other times, I would say most of the time, the cashier or whoever was honestly, they were grateful that I was treating them like a normal person and just being friendly and trying to talk to them. And I had some really good conversations, and actually ended up making a couple of friends that I still talk to just from randomly talking to them at a cafe or wherever it might be.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you think these kind of exercises help you get over your public speaking fear by training you to be more social, or is it that it reduces your fear of rejection and fear of other people, or both?
Yeah, I think all of that, it adds up on that. And also really just having the understanding, because public speaking, when you're uncomfortable with it, you know, one of the biggest things behind the uncomfortable factor is you think everyone's out there to get you, and they're all going to be judging you, and oh, look at them go, you know. So that's one of the biggest parts. So the little things that are outside of the public speaking realm, such as the small talk, or Rahul seeing, you know, someone else be very extroverted without the wall, or, you know, Peter, you know, reading magazines to comment on, you know, all of that, right? It's really to get an understanding that people aren't out to get you. And then when you have that in mind, you know that at heart, you're more at ease when you're speaking in front of groups of people. I think really everything combined with it. So I grew up actually with a very extroverted brother, probably one of the most extroverted people anyone will meet. So it's really interesting because I grew up very introverted. So we had these two ends of the spectrum there, and just to see him interact with people was always so different how I would interact. He would be going up to people at parties and approaching, and it was just, you know, even at small places, just commenting here and there. And I wouldn't even think to do that. That thought wouldn't even come in my mind. It would, but he would just be going. So it's really interesting. I grew up really seeing a big difference, and some of that has rubbed off on me over the years, and I'm sure I've rubbed off on him in some of the years. But really, to see that difference, that really shows me that wall that's there, and that it's just not there for some people. So that ease of transitioning for some.
It's true. We all have that person that we, as introverts, we all have that person that we remember, that we compared ourselves to, or just it's such a different world when you're experiencing someone who's very extroverted and it's hard for you. But I think it's always well worth the challenge and the push through. And it's we're talking about someone that are somewhat in the medium area. To push it even further, something that came to mind was doing something, putting yourself in a situation where there's forced vulnerability. Now that sounds a little violent. It's not like they're forcing you literally, but putting yourself, a lot, you, Peter, Chaz, we've all done group trainings, workshops, personal development, counseling, all these kind of things that in some ways it does in a gentle way forces you to open up about something that's hard for you, something that's very personal to you. And I remember, early in my 20s, I started doing a lot of those programs, and it felt like a high. Afterwards, I would feel just like I'd be like, oh, I just got like a load off of my chest. And 50 people just heard me talk about something that I've probably never told anybody. And then people move on and nothing happens. And one of the coaches that was in that program, she would always say, you're just not that important. And she said it in the kindest way. She was just teasing us a little bit. And it reminds, Chaz, when you were saying, you would do these exercises and then people would just move on. That's what it felt like. You could even share all these things, and not only would people not care in the sense that you think, it would make them feel closer to you and they would remember, but also they're just thinking about what, themselves and how it relates to them, and that's okay. And I think as an introvert, it was very relieving to feel like, oh, the spotlight can be on me for a moment, and then everyone just doesn't really care. Like you could go, Peter, when you're talking to that annoying that person at Safeway or whatever, maybe someone else was looking at you and it felt really embarrassing. And then literally in 5 seconds, they don't even remember you anymore. They just move on with their life. So I think that was really relieving to feel like, oh, people, I'm not that important, people are not going to be thinking about all my problems.
Absolutely. And as you guys see, we did gradual systematic steps, and we kept upgrading the ante on ourselves and building skills. So I wouldn't recommend going to Safeway and doing this as your first step. Maybe do something different, maybe take baby steps, and then you gradually get your inner critic under control, and you increase your belief that people are safe and people are good, which is going to make you feel safe. And that's over time, it's going to build, and then you gradually, go as big as you want. For example, now we're going to the extreme things I've done to overcome my public speaking fear, and that's to do stand-up comedy. Now, if you had asked me 15 years ago, no way I would have done it. And then gradually I found myself taking stand-up comedy classes. I watched stand-up comedians, and before I know it, I was performing on stage. Was that easy? Nope, it was not easy. However, after doing stand-up comedy in a club where people are expected to laugh because of your jokes, then public speaking becomes almost insignificant because you had to perform at this level, and now public speaking seems like moderate. And that helped me tremendously. And again, I wouldn't recommend you jump into stand-up comedy right away. You have to build up to it because, like Chaz said, it could be traumatizing if you're not ready for it. So you need to build yourself up.
Yeah, I think the stand-up comedy, Peter, that's so cool you did that. It's always fun with the stand-up comedy and getting into that mindset. I did it as well in college, and just to think about making people laugh. And that, the pressure is on. I'm sure you can relate. It's like you're not up there to, share an experience or give a work update. It's like, make us laugh, it's like, oh God. So you really have that performance anxiety is very real with stand-up comedy. So yeah, as Peter was saying, build up to that point. One of the things that I found as also a little spin-off of that was, again, I was in a group in college, and there was probably 200 people in the group. And once a week, we would have different teams that would give different updates, and then there would be fun teams. I created an improv group. So it was me and some others, and we would do improv, and, we'd write some skits or whatever, but some of them were just pure off the cuff in front of 200 people in your closest social circle. So it was, you just looking like a goof, but really finding that balance between making them laugh and not just overly embarrassing yourself. So there is that fine line there, and really to find out. But that was one thing for me that was on more of the extreme level of getting past that, was really to push that end of it.
You guys are inspiring me to do some stand-up. I've still been shying away from it, or just not feeling like, oh, I'll do it later, and I haven't done it yet. But that's something that I definitely want to do. Something that I did that was pretty extreme at that time, a number of years ago, and Peter, you were coaching me through this, was I did a Facebook Live video on my personal channel for about a year straight. Every week, I did I would maybe spend a little, like maybe 10 minutes just writing a couple things. And luckily I have our frameworks from Magnetic Speaking to construct something that was concise. But anywhere from a couple minutes to 10 minutes, I would talk about a topic that was personal to me, that I felt was culturally significant in some way, and trying to get a conversation going over Facebook. And one time I had a friend call me after I'd done a video, and she started talking to me. I talked about a video about privilege and what it means and why it's such a loaded topic. And she called me and just started talking about it. And I was like, this is the middle of a workday. And I was so surprised that it touched somebody. So I think once you start pushing yourself in that extreme way too, maybe Chaz with stand-up comedy, you start realizing that other people benefit if you're really doing it in a genuine way. And that, I think, was a big revelation, because I felt so good that, okay, I'm pushing myself, and of course I'm doing it for me, but now it's starting to affect other people, and I want to share something useful. You want to make someone laugh, or you just want to make someone smile, or you just want to teach someone something, and hopefully they get something valuable.
Video. So. You guys have seen how we as introverts became public speakers and how we overcame our public speaking fear, and we're still overcoming it. This is not something that ended 5 years ago. This is something that we continuously battle with, and we are continuously growing and upgrading our skills. And the trick here is not to change your personality. You can be an introvert, you can be a great public speaker as well. Now, what you can do temporarily is be a situational extrovert, where when you're speaking to a group, you shift your attention to the outside, so you're feeding from outside energy instead of inside energy. And you can cultivate that, you can become better at it, and that's going to make you a phenomenal speaker. And one place to stretch yourself is to attend one of our virtual public speaking classes. You will be put on the spot in a safe environment where people respect you and like you, and who are like you. They're all working on their public speaking skills, and you can practice stretching your limits. And just like Rahul said, it usually feels like, woo, afterwards. That's how you're going to feel after the virtual class. I look forward to seeing you there.